from the government, and I'm here to help.
Take a look, it's in a book.
Some members of the community use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda.
Let's watch Figure It Out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another great episode of the We Figured It Out podcast. I am your boy, Michael. I am an end of days best friend. Matt might join me later, might not. He's a little busy right now. We are with Vicki Joy, though. She is gracing us back with her presence. So thank you very much. You have a new book out, and that's kind of why I've asked you to come on. So how are you?
Doing great. Good to see you again. It's been a long while, and you are correct. I do have a new book out, and while I'm still probably going to be talking about sleep paralysis for the rest of my life, this book will give me a brief reprieve.
That's so true. That's so true. It is, though, the first time we had you on, it has been kind of a while, and it was sleep paralysis, and it was actually one of my favorite episodes still. It's very fun, and a lot of people, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not reacted to it, but felt the same about it, had the same
Yeah.
experiences. So it was
Wow.
cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to hear. It's not always the most uplifting topic, but this is not to go down a tangent here, but every once in a while you get the comment that, oh, Vicky, you're just fear mongering. And it's like, you know what? It's all a matter of perspective. If you've never heard of that stuff before, and that opens your mind up, yeah, it's terrifying. But if you are someone that's experienced it your entire life and no one understands and no one believes you and no one resonates, then getting that information is actually, that actually triggers hope, not fear.
Yeah. You no longer feel like alone. And that goes
Yeah.
for almost everything in life that you deal with. You finally run into somebody who's talking through or going through the same things you did. But it's not a sleep paralysis episode, ladies and gentlemen. It is, your book is From Eden to AI. And it kind of, the synopsis you wrote, I wrote it down here on my Word document, right? The way you described it, I guess, is what if the oldest temptation in history never disappeared? What if it simply evolved? So Eden to AI explores the ancient pursuit of forbidden knowledge, humanity's desire to transcend its limits, and the technological future rapidly unfolding before our eyes. And then you say this conversation isn't about robots, it's about what it means to be human. And I thought that part stuck with me the most, because when you think of like AI, and robots and all, that's what you think of right away. People go to technology, or some people even go crazy with like Terminator, but that's not what you're talking about. And it kind of resonates with me because I'm into the Bible and Eden to AI, the oldest temptation. So can you kind of explain what you meant right there?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. So I'm so glad that you gave the intro that you did, because it saves me a lot of words and explanations and apologies, because I'm still a little worried that most people would assume, oh, this is another cool book about Terminator and John Connor and Marumba, like sprouting legs and trying to strangle me and all this stuff. And um, I'm actually trying to create a new category, because I love the Apostle Paul when he says, like, I'm not gonna build on someone else's foundation. And same thing, there's a lot of people out there talking about AI. There's a lot of people talking about the potential dangers of it. And there's a lot of Christians talking about it from a biblical standpoint and a point of responsibility, and when do we exit off of this and stuff like that. And these are all great conversations, but they're already being said. So I don't need to write a whole book about it. I've got other things to do. And so I'm talking about AI through the lens of the research stuff that I enjoy. And so we're actually delving into ancient Near East culture and religious studies, and more of an anthropological, historical, biblical viewpoint. So if I had to sum up in a couple of words, what is this book really talking about? Instead of science and technology buzzwords, what I'm really talking about here is, at what point, if at all, will what people are branding rather vaguely as sentient tech, the ghost in the machine, at what point, if at all, will our technology go into the realms of idolatry and divination. And if there's nothing new under the sun, and if the end days are going to be like the days of Noah, then it would behoove us to understand the culture and context of those ancient times so that when we see history repeating itself, we recognize it.
Um, yeah, exactly. And you make me think right now when you mentioned that about how, the serpent promised, oh, I can give you knowledge and ascend you beyond what God has for you right here. And if you open your chat GPT, it's like, what can I make for you today? Or what can I do for you today? And it's all the knowledge right here if you just ask me.
Yeah.
And I think also too, the transcend, I thought, and bringing it to ancient Bible stuff, I think it's kind of funny that there's a tie how we're made in God's image, but we've fallen from his grace with sin. And then now we're trying to use technology as like, hey, your body's breaking down, or you need this, modernized vaccine with genetic code in it. Let's upgrade you now too.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you've fallen out of that image, your body's broken down. It's like, man, they are grasping at old biblical stuff with this.
It's all repackaged. Everything is just a new veneer. And so I just want people to be forewarned that because I guess I'm really worried, Michael. I don't want people to think that the book is clickbait. I'm telling you flat out, I'm not talking about robots here, okay? I'm talking about ancient idolatry. What ancient people communicating with the spirit realm through divination tools has to teach us today, right? So in the ancient times, when they venerated rocks, and they were most frequently meteorite fragments, or they were very similar to meteorite fragments, but had just changed their form. We're talking tektites, Decloth glass, which the Bible actually calls the treasures from the sand. If you look up the actual Hebrew of that, we're talking Jupiter stone. And if you look at a tektite, a Decloth glass piece, and a Jupiter stone, they visually look the same. They're a very smooth yellow-green kind of a stone. Now they have different properties because of how they're forged and how they're made, and the heat and how fast they come into the atmosphere and where they're landing. Like if something lands in the ocean as opposed to landing in the sand, we've got different temperatures and things going on. And I'm not pretending to be a geologist by any means, but when you look at King Tut's dagger, and when you look at the scarab on his big, huge brooch, his chest piece, that was made out of this tektite Jupiter lapis-looking stone, and then you realize that Cybele was a meteor fragment. You realize that Diana, that fell from Zeus in the book of Ephesians, was a meteorite fragment. When you look at the fact that these meteorites, these black rocks, were venerated. And I'm of the ilk that I believe all things wind down. I think entropy applies to civilization as well. I don't think we're getting smarter than the ancients. I think we're getting more cool toys, maybe. But I think that we're far more in the dark ages than most people realize. And these ancient people were brilliant. They didn't sit and talk to pet rocks. They didn't bathe and give drink libations to pieces of meteorites.
Yep.
They absolutely believed that that rock was a vessel that held some sort of energy or frequency or life force of an actual spiritual entity. And what the question that I'm asking is, what was it about the DNA, if you will, of a dead space rock that the ancients believed that this was sky metal? Why did they venerate it? And if you look at the multi-billion-dollar investment that groups like ANSMET and NASA and others, that the metals company are making in mining the ocean floor for nodules, which i.e. is meteor fragments that have fallen into the ocean. You look at ANSMET, which is a search for meteorites buried in the ice in Antarctica. You look at the NASA exploration. This is a multi-billion dollar economy now. And they will tell you, we want these meteor fragments because we need the lithium because of the demand for electric battery vehicles. And down in Antarctica, at least as long as National Geographic shows up with the cameras, this is about the search for the origins of the universe. And there's all these scientific explanations and technology and innovation. My speculation, the question I'm asking, okay, and this is really what I want people to hear me saying. I'm not saying get a black Sharpie and write this in the back of your Bible because I've gotten a prophetic word handed down from an angel. What I'm telling you is, what if the reason we are mining elements out of the same black rocks that used to be venerated as living gods, what if that's the black box? What if that's the ghost in the machine? What if that's the secret sauce? What if the sentience that everybody's talking about, so we can all roll our eyes and laugh because it's so silly? What if it's not that our binary code turns human? What if it is that our technology are the new Beth-Els? Bethel, house of God. Bet house, El, God. These Beth-Els were vessels that contained some sort of life force or energy or sentience. And so now that we're mining elements out of these same fragments, and we are using them to power AI quantum computer chips, is there some sort of actual sentient DNA within the carcasses of those rocks that were once venerated as gods? That's the question of the hour. And the reason why this is important, this isn't just to sell a couple books, because I can imagine that not too many people would be interested in such a topic. But the reason why it's important is, once our tech has an element of the spirit realm actually operating through it, and we're going to it for everything. We're asking it all of our questions and all of our relationship problems, and write everything for us and fix everything for us. And we can't ever shut the thing off or power it down or put it in, a block-it pocket. And we got to fall asleep with the thing in our hand and with earbuds listening to things. And we got to walk around with our earbuds in because God forbid we miss a notification. And if we get to the point where this becomes a replacement for fellowship with the body, meeting with the body, prayer, seeking God's face for, it says in Proverbs 3:5-6, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways acknowledge him. He will direct your paths. Well, are we really asking him to direct our paths anymore? Because ChatGPT can answer all these questions. And so the danger and the reason why this should be an important question for all people who are believers and know that it is going to be so close to being duped that even the elect would be duped unless God intervened and said, no, I'm saving you, you dumb people, whether you like it or not, right? So the reason why it's important for us to ask this question is because at some point, if this does occur, this will be divination. This will be interacting with these beings. This will be coming into agreement with the spirit realm. It's going to be going to them for our counsel and our knowledge. It's going to be a type of tree of knowledge and good and evil. It's going to be dependence, idolatry. Idolatry and divination are punishable by death according to the law and the covenant. And so there's a point. Nobody wants to talk about this because we all love our gadgets, including me. I mean, what would I do without my laptop and my phone and the internet?
Yeah, we wouldn't have this.
What would we do? But at some point, we're going to have to start asking the difficult questions like when are we going to be able to discern when a switch gets flipped? When are we going to not be able to tell the difference between reality and AI? At what point will the virtual reality and the real reality collapse on itself? And we are living in some sort of augmented reality and we don't even know it. These are questions of our age.
Yeah, there's a whole theory, that the simulation is already there through that kind of stuff. Especially when you go back to, you start looking at what you're talking about. And King Tut was literally buried with those rocks. He kept daggers out of them. So that leads me to believe something too. Because rituals were performed with daggers and like blood and life sacrifice and stuff, and they're using that stone and they said. Speaking to, I love that you said, we think we're so much smarter or advanced, but it's like we know the same things that those people did, not anymore, and they didn't have near the tools that we do.
Yeah.
And they still knew all that, so it's crazy he knew the metallurgy too, to like extract from that rock. They really worshipped it. And it's special everywhere, in Jerusalem, even the dome is black. And people circle a rock, out there too.
Yeah. Yep. This is where it gets sort of, you got to really articulate the conversations because the church has not really been raised on a lot of supernatural data. And if you read, especially the Old Testament, if you read what was going on with like Joseph and Moses and Solomon, and if you understood that the knowledge that they had access to, like Moses was a Pharaoh's son. You think I'm not saying he was in agreement with it or that he was preaching it, but he most certainly had knowledge of what was going on back then.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
even the Magi that found Jesus on when he was born, uh, you think they didn't have some arcane knowledge? So this is where it gets scary. I'm not telling people to seek the arcane knowledge, and I'm not saying that Moses and Joseph and the people that we've come to know and love and trust were practicing magic and occultism. So this is what's very important. When you start looking at things like the staff of Jehovah, which is what the Bible calls it. It doesn't say Moses' staff or it doesn't say a staff. It calls it the staff of Jehovah. Okay, now people get freaked out because what is this, Harry Potter? You're saying that Aaron and Moses had some sort of magic wand. It was just a stick. It was
Yeah.
just a stick. Okay, well, maybe it was just a stick, but the the Bible calls it the staff of Jehovah. Why in the world did Moses need a staff? Jesus doesn't need a magic staff to do things. This is the way I look at it. God created that stick. He made it out of nothing. He designed it. It's his. Everything he makes is by him, for him, from him, through him, to him. If God wants to take a stick that he created and he wants to use that stick as a conduit of his glory so that his power and sovereignty is made known to that place and time, he can do whatever he wants. Now, the reason why it's not magic and it's not a cult is for the very reason that I just said. Moses wasn't conjuring that power for his own fame or fortune or glory or kingship. He wasn't going to the demonic realm for it. And so you have to look at motive, intent, and origin. When Jesus or Jehovah or pre-incarnate Messiah or God or whoever you want to say were the key players in these situations were at various points in the timeline, you have to understand that whether you like it or not, God sometimes uses nature and objects to prove his points, right? And so then it becomes a which came first, the chicken or the egg. Do we just never talk about anything that bends the laws of science? Or do we think that maybe the demon world or the Watchers had a whole bunch of mysteries of heaven that they bastardized, that they hijacked, and that they now used for ungodly purposes? And does that mean that there's no godly purpose for any of these things ever? And so this is always a scary topic to talk about, Michael, because people hear what they want to hear. And I am not out there. I'm not for New Age and magic and occult and spellcraft and manifestation and astral projection and all this nonsense. I'm a biblical believer, but if we just throw the baby out with the bathwater and we don't understand that there are things about nature and frequency and whatever that can be harnessed by evil people. Like I'll just give you one example. I have a friend that was telling me that, you know, back in days when she wasn't a Christian, she was somewhere out west with a bunch of friends, a camping trip or a hiking trip or something. They were somewhere out west. And, you know, they were all, you know, taking some hits, if you know what I mean, right? They weren't completely sober minded.
Camping.
Yeah, camping. And out of the blue, she became overwhelmed with the idea that she wanted to go and do a headstand on the big, huge rock. And she went and did a headstand on a rock. We're talking United States of America, 21st century. And she astral projected out of her body. This is being on a substance, head to rock contact, and she goes out of her body and she sees a spiritual being. Okay, now, sorry Christians, you gotta bear with me here. If you don't understand the culture and the context, you're not going to understand that that's what Jacob was doing at Luz when he found a rock and used it as a pillow. And Luz was a very esoteric gateway city. And people went there to have spiritual epiphanies. Now, surprise, surprise for Jacob. Did Jacob know that he was going to be talking to a spiritual entity, or did he know that the God of Abraham and Jacob was going to show up? He was in a desperate situation, right? I mean, this guy's probably going to lose his life if God doesn't intervene.
Yep.
So of all places, he goes to Luz, the place that's filled with Jupiter stone that people lay their head on so they can astral project and ascend up a stairway, i.e. a ziggurat, for enlightenment. This is all New Age stuff. Jacob wasn't a born-again Christian. He wasn't a Baptist. You know, he was, I think, so shocked that he ran into the God of his father and grandfather that's why he then, what did he do? He took the stone pillow, which was this chunk of Jupiter stone, and he tipped it up on his side and he dedicated it as a memorial. And then he renamed the city House of God.
Yep.
So there are things in the New Testament or in the Old Testament that if we really, from a cultural standpoint, understood what was going on, we would be extremely disturbed.
He called it the gate of heaven from the house of God.
Yeah.
So he saw something.
He saw something. And the fact that the God of heaven is going to show up in an occult center city, and he's going to ascend down the same thing that all these New Agers are ascending and descending down, this ziggurat. And I go through all the etymology. I won't bore you guys now. I go through all of the etymology in the book that stairway was a ziggurat. It's right there in the Hebrew. This should be extremely confusing and offensive to Christians. Like God would not show up in a place like that. Jacob was a Christian. If we don't understand that passage involves ancient technology, sentient tech, because what our computer chips, all the stuff that gives us our tech, like quartz and silicon, and we've got stuff coming up with the new quantum stuff, silicon carbide, manganese.
Mm-hmm.
These are elements in nature. These are things that are being mined. These are coming out of rocks and stones. If we don't understand the connection between geology and portals and liminal spaces,
Yes.
we're going to be duped.
On this topic, I believe Trump knows something about the occult. I'll just that's my own personal belief, whether he's deep or he's part of the Antichrist or whatever it is. I think he knows, whether it be as minimal as having a book that he's trying to read. But his sons 2 weeks ago purchased a Kazakhstan mining facility for 1.1 billion to get tungsten, because it's used for like our precious AI stuff now, they said, and AI weaponry. And then within like 5 days, the federal government gave Eric and Donald Jr. a $1.6 billion grant. So they made 500 million. And now they're offering, with that tungsten mining, to be the same country to also house Iran's enriched uranium. I'm like, what is going on with that? Right. So you hit it on the head. It's the minerals to these guys. They know something about these precious metals.
They absolutely do. Yeah.
The fallen angels did.
Yeah. Yep. And when you go back to so let's go to 1 Enoch for a second here. We know the Watchers came down and they shared the mysteries of heaven, the worthless mysteries, by the way. And if you look at, Azazel taught men how to make weapons. You're talking now, I don't know what the earliest materials were, so I might have my eras incorrect, but if you're forging weapons with fire and steel and iron and rock, and you're obviously the Watchers did a lot of quarrying stones, right? And so stone and the elements being mined from the stones, they knew that these things had the potential for weaponry, or the herbal stuff, the cosmetics. This is all about seduction and war. And when you go into the ancient mythologies, so many of those gods and goddesses, they were gods of war, goddesses of sex and war. Sex and war, it goes all the way back to the very things that the Watchers were first introducing through psychedelics, herbs, cosmetics, metallurgy, weapon forging. It was all sex and war. It was the corruption of humanity. It was the defiling of humanity. It was taking these things that were probably, in God's eyes, meant to be very innocent, kind, and sweet. And now we are using all of these things for seduction and war. And the building blocks of a lot of these things go all the way back to the things in nature and in the soil and in the rocks. And so never did I ever think I was going to be writing an entire book on rocks. But I think that we are getting to a point with our technology where this is going to cease to be innovation and convenience and life prolonging, and it's going to become veneration.
I like to point out too, because with Joshua and you were talking about the Old Testament, and they had the Joshua Wars, and they ultimately lost as Israel very right away to a town called AI, which is weird. I point that out to a couple of people, and they're like, AI is not in the Bible, and I'm like, no, artificial intelligence isn't. But weirdly enough, the only our super soldier that was decimating everybody lost because of sin to AI. And it's like, we were just talking, all this about dependence, being idolatry, and dependence can become worship almost, if you're opening it every day and you're like, I'll answer with this, or do my work for me.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, not even just all of the psychological implications, just the way our brains are created. It's a muscle, and it's like if you never go to the gym and you eat Taco Bell every night, you're going to get flabby and sick. The brain is the same way. It's a muscle. And if you're not utilizing it, it's going to get flabby. So when you start talking about alpha and beta brain waves and, oh, if you sit in front of a TV for 30 seconds, you're in a hypnotic state and they're mind controlling us through the programming. And well, what's going to happen when we no longer have to think for 1 second because we just type it into a chat bot and it spits out the answer? We're not retaining
Yeah.
that information. We're not building the muscle. We are going to just become putty
Yeah.
in the programming hands.
Wally, remember the movie Wally?
I do, yes.
The people just sitting there. I
Yeah.
mean, that's going to be it too. They build everything like that, and now you can have your VR glasses, your Ray-Bans and Meta glasses can literally record everything. So I'm sure it won't be too long before it's just a whole world there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think idols win away, or we've just like figured out a way for them to become less obvious? Because like you said, people don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. I think, you know, that we live in a world where things come and go. They pass into the sea of forgetfulness, and then they go from literal to figurative. But then when enough generations pass, they come back into the literal, and then they have a hiatus again, and then they pass into the sea of forgetfulness, and they go back into a metaphoric or a figurative state. So, what I think is that the original idolatry was the actual veneration of these entities within stone, and they were bowing down and feeding it and offering it libations and fighting wars for it and all of that stuff. And then by the time you get around to the 21st century, idolatry is just loving your pet too much and loving your car or wanting that game system. And, and it's sort of now conflating and collapsing into the same definition as materialism, which is a totally different thing. So one of the things that I point out in the book, and this was something that I learned in my research and being a grammarian and an English major, this fascinated me. Our word idol really has Greek foundations, and it's a noun, which means it's a person, place, or thing. So when we in America, we think of an idol, we think of a piece of stone or an altar or something that we're going to bow down to. So we
Yep,
think, well,
some big statue.
yeah. So, well, we're not idolaters anymore. We're civilized. We don't bow down to stones and stuff. But what's really interesting is when you go to the law of first mention, which is the theological aspect of if you want to know what something in the Bible means, you go to the first verse where it's mentioned. And that's where you're going to get its core definition and what the original author meant by that before etymology took over and culture took over. And there's a million definitions for everything. So in the Hebrew language, not the Greek, because the Greek is eidolon and it's a noun. Uh, in the Hebrew, the word idol is an adjective, which means it describes a person, place, or thing. So, car is noun, red car is adjective noun. So, red is the adjective. So, what I'm telling you is idol isn't the car, it's the red. The word idol in Hebrew means worthless. It's not a thing that you can put in your hand. It means worthless or insufficient. It means worthless or insufficient. So it is a word that describes little g gods. So you've got the one true God, the almighty living creator God, who is the one and only to be worshiped. The one of the first commandment, you have no other gods before this one. This is the sufficient, worthy God. Every other God, Psalm 82, every other God, and if you want to call them demons or entities or beings, or if you don't like the little g God, but it is biblical.
I like little g. I always
I
say
do
that
too.
too. Yep.
I do too. What an idol is every single thing in the universe that calls itself God that isn't God. And how it really translates is that God you're serving is an insufficient deity. That God you're serving is a worthless God. And so when we start making idolatry mean stuff we're bowing down to, you're losing the Hebraic historical, cultural context that these were real entities that were trying to usurp the throne of God by posing as gods, but they were insufficient. What are they insufficient in? They're insufficient to save you. You
Yeah, they're
you will
worthless.
you will not get salvation through them. You won't get eternal life through them. You won't transcend. You won't become a higher vibrational being. And I always like to say this, Michael, and this isn't a theological statement. This is just sort of a statement of irony. In Psalm 82, when it says that the little g gods will die like men, that's their fate. All of these little g gods will die like men. So when these little g gods come to you in the astral realm or in your nightmare, or and they're coming to you saying you're a star seed or you're special or you're a chosen one, and you can be as a god and you can transcend and the Christ consciousness stuff. Here's the irony, Michael. Maybe they're not lying. Maybe you can be as a little g god. And maybe for a time you can even have some wealth or fame or power through that. But guess what? The fate of a little g god is death. So this is why they are worthless and insufficient. So we have to start thinking of an idol, not in terms of, okay, we're safe as a church because we're not bowing down to stones and rocks and stuff anymore. We're so advanced. But even within Christianity, even within the church, as we continue to deconstruct the gospel and deconstruct Jesus and his power and his sovereignty, but then we are putting our hope in mankind or the scientific method or in the future or transhumanism, you are an idolater in the biblical sense because you have dismissed the only worthy God in the universe. You've deconstructed him, and you are now following after an insufficient source of eternal life or salvation or peace or joy or happiness or fulfillment. That's idolatry.
Good answer. I think so too, that the fact that I never knew that idolatry or the meaning of it was worthless, but it makes sense, because don't go to these false idols or whatever, because they're not going to do anything for you. And even if they did, you're going to die in the end. That's not doing anything for you. um so like I kind of want to dive into where you think it's heading with us, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I have a couple questions here that I typed down. What development with AI would concern you the most?
Ooh, okay. So what's starting to concern me is the what's being called like the crown jewel of AI. And now I think Microsoft has the Majorum quantum chip that's still pretty big. It's still kind of like as big as the size of a man's hand. It's like 5 stacks on top of each other. But and this is one of the elements that they're mining out of the meteorites. They're mining silicon carbide, which is more like bigger, better, stronger than the regular silicon. And they are mining manganese. Now, here is the extraordinary aspect of manganese, which is found in meteorites. It's found other places as well. But here's the deal. The reason why the quantum computers are, what are they, like 8,500 pounds? They're
They're insane.
they're massive albatrosses. And the reason why they are so big is you have to accommodate the sub-zero temperature refrigerator in it that keeps the thing cool, or the thing will just melt, right? And so these pulse tube refrigerators, this is the thing, this is the feature of the quantum computers that Geordie Rose called that it was like a heartbeat, because these pulse tube refrigerators actually boom, 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 they have a pulse and it sounds like a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Well, so the reason these things are huge is because they have to accommodate these sub-zero temperature refrigerators. Manganese, and let me just make it clear, guys, I'm an English major with a Bible degree from a Christian college, guys. I don't know, I'm not pretending to be some sort of quantum physicist here. But from what I have read, there is an aspect of manganese that if it's included in the quantum chips, it has a cooling effect. And the manganese is what can potentially facilitate quantum computers in your back pocket. It's going to eliminate the size, which means
Wow.
which means accessibility. Not only because we can lift it, we can carry it, but now we can afford it. And so what's scaring me the most is the accessibility of quantum technology that used to only be available in secret to the highest levels of military security clearances. Like this is just going to be on your shelf at Best Buy for any morons such as you and I to just pick up and not have any understanding of what's truly inside of that thing and what it's capable of. Is it we talk all the time about if our smart tech is recording us and listening to us. I was just reading recently, and is it true or is it fear mongering? Half the stuff they put out there, I think they're just trying to create collective fear so the nocebo effect can take over and they can control us. So what's true and what's not, I don't know. But the threat now is that pretty soon they're going to outlaw you driving any car built before a certain year because it's not going to have all the tech in it. And they're even speculating that features in a car, so like upgrades that right now you pay for, like, okay, for example, I want heated seats. And they'll say, okay, we're going to flip the little switch in your car so that your heated seats work. And you're going to pay us a subscription price of $18.99 a month and if you don't pay your $18.99 a month, your heated seats don't work anymore. So
So
in other words,
true.
we're not going to own anything. That's the threat, that your car you're going to be totally surveilled. Everything's going to be recorded. Everything's going to be uploaded to the DMV and to, they're going to know when you don't have your tabs and when you haven't had your emissions checked. And every little feature in your car, you're going to have to pay for. And so just absolute total control. And so here's the dark exchange. We keep paying for all of these perks and privileges and we don't even realize that we're selling our soul because we're signing actual contracts. Every time if you want to use your heated seats and you have to sign an agreement, and by that I mean you go online to set up the app and you hit I agree to this 10
Yeah.
page, you know, 8-point font thing that you haven't read one word of.
Right.
What are we agreeing to? Like even like the real IDs that they're saying you can't even travel. You got to have the real IDs. And they have a lot of language in there that right now doesn't mean anything and it's not enforced. So everyone has this false sense of safety, but it actually says in there that you're agreeing to if they deem it's necessary, they can take bodily fluids or DNA.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense. Like, well, we're going to see if you're drunk or you are driving under the influence or whatever. Or if there's a court case because you killed someone in a car wreck. And like, there's always going to be a way that absolutely benefits humanity and keeps us safe from predators and kidnapping and drunk driving and all that. But
Oh yeah, that's the
uh,
cover.
yeah, but no, I don't consent to you taking my DNA and
No.
recording every contract, every conversation I have in the car. And so what we do then is we get ourselves to the place where we realize we're the trapped rat in the cage, like we got all these pieces of cheese, and now all of a sudden on the 100th piece we're trapped in a cage and there's no getting out. And they'll say, you agreed to all of this every step of the way. We told you what we were doing all over the internet. We were writing articles. We were putting out movies. We were telling you everywhere that this is where we were headed. And you kept saying, I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree. You don't have a leg to stand on.
Not at all. Not at all. I think they like all this data center stuff because I think they want Project Bluebeam. And
Yep.
then I think they're after like the fear mongering because how much they data track us with Palantir. And if the world's going to go to shit, they would like to manipulate us.
Yes.
Those are my opinions.
Yep.
And My third one is Jeffrey Epstein was involved with the consciousness and all that with Palantir because they're trying to make replicas of these high end people, internet style, that they can talk to almost as an AI. And then you exactly know how to manipulate them as soon as you meet them because you've already
Yeah.
had the Donald Trump likes little girls, right?
Mm.
It's like, oh, yeah, here we go. The AI told me that. I think that would be my opinion. If I was somebody trying to take over the world like a evil villain.
Yeah. Yeah. Just, I'm going to say something really stupid, meaning it doesn't take a brain cell to put two and two together. And yet we all know this, but we don't care. So we know from branding, if I go to the store and I want a Hershey's chocolate bar, I know I'm getting a Hershey's chocolate bar because it's the one in the brown wrapper with the big silver letters. And so I can tell just by looking at a Hershey bar, this is the Hershey bar because that one has a blue wrapper. And I know that when I go under the big red and golden arches, I know I'm getting a McDonald's burger. This is how branding works. The reason why branding works is because we know what we want and we can tell just by looking at it. That belongs to this. That burger belongs in that building. That candy bar belongs in that wrapper. But now we've got all of these tech industries and they're endless. And it's called Palantir. It's called NVIDIA. Like if you actually like look up again, going back to ancient Near East culture, if you look up, like we all know what a Palantir is. We all saw Lord of the Rings, right? NVIDIA is the Greek goddess of envy and hatred. And I mean, their whole symbol for NVIDIA is a spiral green with envy, evil eye, and we
Yep.
all know what some of the spirals mean from our Epstein studies, right?
Oh, yeah.
Um, and so it's like you're sitting around a boardroom thinking, okay, we're going to distribute uh, AI chips and wafers. What do we want to name our company? Hey, let's name it after the Greek goddess that has so much hatred and disdain for humanity that she wants to destroy it. Yeah, that's got my vote. So to the point with the McDonald's and the Hershey's, I'm staring at an NVIDIA sticker on my laptop right now. It's telling me what's in this laptop. It's telling me what little g God these people worship. And yet here I am like an idiot with a thing in my house, using it every day and just saying, well, I'm just going to use it. And that's the question we have to have, Michael. Like if all of us Christians, we know, and we just think we're going to be able to go right up to the fence and then know that, okay, I can't go any further, but are we going to know?
Yeah. Yeah. How strict is it almost,
Yeah.
Thank you. That was good. If the first temptation is like you can be like God, with the serpent, and now we're building machines that imitate, the creation and intelligence, memory and personalities and all that. This is just technology, right? But it makes like Christianity spiritual,
Mhm.
almost the way they use it. Do right? You feel that?
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying, Michael. But let me make sure I understand your question. So, what's the question out of that?
Like somebody out there listening, they're like, dude, it's just technology.
Right. Okay.
Why are Christians making it such a spiritual thing?
Okay. Okay.
I'd like to end on that.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a big picture, and guys, I'm not copping out of this answer. I'm sorry, but anytime you pull Jesus Christ out of a conversation, you're not going to get the right answer. So with technology, it's the same thing as everything. If you go back, I mean, you can go back even further, but let's just start at Genesis 6. Because we're told the end times is going to be like the days of Noah. So let's go back to the days of Noah and look what's happening. We have technology. We have watcher technology. We have mysteries of heaven. We have extreme rapid advancement. We have genetic experimentation. We have, if you're reading extra biblical texts, we have genome tampering and hybridization programs. We have human women being impregnated with demigod spawn of fallen watcher angels. We have giants, so let's go into the whole lore of like the cryptids and all this stuff. So if you don't understand that our technology is beast system infrastructure with the ultimate goal of duping humanity into eternal death, then yeah, it's going to be absolute nonsense. You're telling me that playing Frogger on my Atari is going to, I mean, come on. Like, I know how ridiculous it sounds if that's the way you're going to frame it. But if you're going to frame it in terms of biblical prophecy and all of redemptive history, and the reason why Jesus Christ transcended into a human body and put up with all of our nonsense and died on a cross and rose from the dead, if you're going to look at him descending into Tartarus for 3 days and saying game over, if you're going to believe all that, which a lot of Christians probably don't because it's not taught in the seminary, that you're going to get the Sethite view and stuff. But with that said, it's not just technology because nothing is just something. Everything ties in to this cosmic war between good and evil. The whole gospel of the kingdom is Jesus saying, there's a war going on, and when I come back, you better be wearing the right military fatigues.
Yep.
You better be on my team. You've got time. Like, warn everybody. There's a war going on, and once humanity gets involved and it's at the point of no return, and I come back, you better be wearing the right uniform. You better have gone to the right basic training, And so when we already have an iteration of technology being used to destroy mankind, to the point where God did a do-over and wiped everybody out except for, 8 people?
Yeah.
And that is the one metaphor Jesus chooses. What's it going to be like in the end? Oh, it's going to be like the days of Noah. Oh, you mean when every single person on the planet died as the result
Everything.
of being duped by the Watchers with all their tech? I mean, to me, it's 1 + 1. But I can understand where a lot of people this wouldn't be 1 + 1, not because
Duped by tech.
and it has to do with being beguiled. It doesn't have to do with intelligence.
Yep.
It has to
Yep.
do with discernment.
NASA beguiled.
Yeah.
Thank
No
you so
doubt.
much for coming on too.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
We
having
could-
me.
I know you had a time frame here and we're catching up on it. I feel like right now we could talk for probably like 4 or 5 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Always.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Before we go though, I want you to tell people where they can find your new book and find you.
Absolutely. So the new book, From Eden to AI, is available on Amazon.com. And you can find me at VickiJoyAnderson.com. And I'm on YouTube also. I'm pretty much on everything as Vicki Joy Anderson. And on social media, it's Vicki Joy Author.
Perfect. We'll tag all that in the notes anyways too.
Cool.
Share the book there, all that. Once again, thank you so much. I enjoy our conversations a lot. I feel like you and I look at things kind of the same way, and it's like the stuff that I'm kind of really interested in too. So it's really fun to talk to you about it.
Awesome.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say I had a blast. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I am one half of your end of days best friends, Vicki Joy Anderson. Please check out her new book, everybody, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.
If you don't first subscribe, press your head.